this exhaust is kind of rusted up, so I'm gonna break this stuff off and then just kind of paint it with some high temperature paint. See if that helps. Okay, it's all masked off, and I'm just doing a quick paint on this just to get it protected. Okay, and there it's painted with some high heat 2000 degree paint, so hopefully that will adhere nicely and prevent some rust in the future. Okay, so something that it tells you to do for the paint when it's on the vehicle is to bake this for like 20 minutes. So run the vehicle for 20 minutes, let it cool, run the vehicle for 20 minutes, let it cool. And so I just ran it for the first 20 minutes to let this paint bake on here. Alright, here's the same part after some sanding and bead blasting. I get in there a little bit with bead blaster, but I decided to try painting this without taking all the anodizing off, or powder coating, just because some of it's really hard to get off even with a bead blaster and a sander. So I'm going to see how this turns out. It's just trying to protect it. So it'd be nice if it looked perfect, but you know, just bead blasting it should do. Or bead blasting and then painting it should protect it. And I'm using a high temperature 2000 degree paint on it. So hopefully that should be good enough for it. High heat 2000 degrees. Okay, so here we are. We're all painted up. Turned out decently well. You'd say I probably should have just worked some more and sandblasted, but you know what? It's just to protect it. So it was sandblasted. It was scraped pretty hard. This is good. Now I'm about to bake it. I have access to an oven here. I'm going to bake it for 250 degrees for 30 minutes. Surfaces are warm in there. Got my elbow in the back of the door, unfortunately. So, I'm going to set a timer on this. So, according to the paint here, if it is off the vehicle, bake at 250 degrees for 30 minutes. And it's 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 121 Celsius. And allow 30 minutes to cool. And then you bake it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, or 204 Celsius, for 30 minutes, and allow 30 minutes to cool. And then bake at 600 or 315 C for 30 minutes, then allow to cool for 30 minutes. And of course it says make sure you don't exceed the heat tolerance of the part. So don't be putting a high temperature spray paint on plastic and expecting it to last that temperature. Almost at the end of the run cycle here, and I just want to temperature probe it and make sure we actually got to 250 degrees. 5 minutes in we were at 170, so I raised the time from 30 to 35 minutes to make sure the part actually got to 250. There it is, it just shut down. So I use my temperature probe. We were at 244 degrees Fahrenheit, so that is perfect. Open the door so it can cool for 30 minutes, and then we'll start the next baking cycle. So here we go, here's the part out of the oven. And it's coming across more on the phone than it is in real life. You can kind of see where, actually it's mostly just where I touched it with my human hands. So it turned out pretty good. Did not do the final bake on this. You can see this is kind of right here where I didn't fully cut all of the powder coating, but it occurred to me that they may have never treated this with a high temperature. They may have just powder coated it, because most powder coating is good for about 300, 350 degrees. They may have never treated it with a high temperature coating. I was baking at 400 degrees and saw that it was starting to smoke. And I let it finish, kind of filled the garage with smoke. Opened the garage, let it vent out. But I think the problem is, since it was just normal powder coating, it's not meant to go that hot. And the final bake is supposed to be 600 degrees. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the bake at 400. And but you can see it looks so much better. You know, there's not all that rust, and it cleaned up well. And if you look inside, you know, that all cleaned up very, very nice. I mean, it's got the pitting from the rust, but for the most part, it's turned out very nice. and it's ready to go back on the tractor. Another part done. Alright, so when pulling off the exhaust manifold, one of the bolts snapped off right flush with the hole. So I'm gonna attempt to drill it out. And this is my least favorite thing to do because this is all hardened steel. What you just missed is I took like a punch, and I punched a center dot so the bit won't wander. I'm going to try to make a straight hole down the center. That bolt is fucked. 2 hours later. Don't be afraid to back up when you're chopping and get those chips clear. Another thing done. Doo-doo. That's in there. Let's get the top. So once again, these are two different sizes because this one had a broken bolt in it, and by the time I drilled it out, I had to go to the next size bigger. What I actually had to do to get this top bolt on is this was pretty crooked. I ended up taking that bolt loose and I put a pry bar on this side. Kind of wedged it over. So after that was installed, I did a quick test fit and we were good to go. So that'll wrap up this video. Thanks again for watching and please consider subscribing.
Well, that looks pretty royally boned.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like you're cutting it at all.
I know, right?
It actually just looks like you're polishing it. Will you just tack weld it?
No.
I could do that. I could tack it for you, baby. Tack it on.